Dear friends, hello and welcome. Today I am going to deliver a lecture on disorders related to glycogen metabolism, genetic deficiency of glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase, galactosemia, pantosuria and diabetes mellitus. Now, let us first try to have a look at the main objectives of today's deliberation. Number first is to give a general introduction about glycogen metabolism. Number second, to learn about disorders related to glycogen metabolism. Number third, learning about genetic deficiency of glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase. Number fourth, explaining galactosemia and pantosuria. And finally, we shall be discussing about diabetes mellitus. Now, we will start with the introduction about glycogen metabolism. Glycogen is a multi-branched polysaccharide of glucose that serves as a form of energy storage in animals and fungi. The polysaccharide structure represents the main storage form of glucose in the body. In humans, glycogen is made and stored primarily in the cells of liver and the muscles hydrated with 3 or 4 parts of water. Glycogen functions as a secondary long-term energy storage, with the primary energy stores being fats held in adipose tissue. Muscle glycogen is converted into glucose by muscle cells, and liver glycogen converts to glucose for use throughout the body, including the central nervous system. Glycogen degradation and synthesis are relatively simple biochemical processes. Glycogen degradation consists of 3 steps. Number first, the release of glucose 1-phosphate from glycogen. Number second, the remodeling of the glycogen substrate to permit further degradation. And number third, the conversion of glucose 1-phosphate into glucose 6-phosphate for further metabolism. The glucose 6-phosphate derived from the breakdown of glycogen has 3 fates. Number first, it is the initial substrate for glycolysis. Number second, it can be processed by the pentose phosphate pathway to yield NADPH and ribose derivatives. And number third, it can be converted into free glucose for release into the bloodstream. This conversion takes place mainly in the liver and to a lesser extent in the intestines and kidneys. Glucose 6-phosphate derived from glycogen can be used as a fuel for anaerobic or aerobic metabolism, as in, for instance, muscles. It can also be converted into free glucose in the liver and subsequently released into the blood. Now that we have learned about the process of glycogen metabolism, let us now try to understand disorders related to glycogen metabolism. Glycogen storage disorders are a group of inherited diseases. They result from a problem with one of the proteins known as enzymes involved in the conversion of glucose to glycogen or the breakdown of glycogen back into glucose. They mostly tend to affect your liver and muscles. Most are diagnosed in childhood. Symptoms include weakness, tiredness and low blood sugar levels. Newer treatment possibilities provide hope for an improved outlook. Most people with a glycogen storage disorder respond well to the treatment. However, type 2 infantile Pompe's disease can be difficult to treat and can affect life expectancy. Now, let us discuss glycogen storage disease type 1. Glycogen storage disease type 1 is also known as von Gerke disease or hepatorenal glycogenosis. Von Gerke described the first patient with GSD type 1 in 1929 under the name hepatonephromegaly glycogenica. In 1952, Corey and Corey demonstrated that glucose 6-phosphate deficiency was a cause of GSD type 1. In 1978, Narisawa et al. Proposed that a transport defect of glucose 6-phosphate into the microsomal compartment may be present in some patients with GSD type 1. Thus, GSD type 1 is divided into GSD type 1A caused by glucose 6-phosphate deficiency and GSD type 1B resulting from deficiency of a specific translocase T1. Second is glycogen storage disease type 2. Glycogen storage disease type 2, also known as acid maltase deficiency or Pompe disease, is a prototypic lysosomal disease. Its clinical presentation clearly differs from other forms of GSD. Deficiency of a lysosomal enzyme alpha-1,4-glycosidase causes GSD type 2. Pompe initially described the disease in 1932. An essential pathologic finding is the accumulation of normally structured glycogen in most tissues. Three forms of the disease exist, that is infantile, juvenile and adult. In the classic infantile form, the main clinical signs are cardiomyopathy and muscular hypotonia. In the juvenile and adult forms, the involvement of skeletal muscles dominates the clinical presentation. Next is glycogen storage disease type 3. It is also known as Forbes-Cori disease or limit dextrinosis. In contrast to GSD type 1, liver and skeletal muscles are involved in GSD type 3. Glycogen deposited in these organs has an abnormal structure. Next is glycogen storage disease type 4. Glycogen storage disease type 4, also known as amylopectinosis or Anderson disease, is a rare disease that leads to early death. In 1956, Anderson reported the first patient with progressive hepatosplenomegaly and accumulation of abnormal polysaccharides. The main clinical features are liver insufficiency and abnormalities of the heart and nervous system. Next is the glycogen storage disease type 5. Glycogen storage disease type 5, also known as McArdle disease, affects the skeletal muscles. McArdle reported the first patient in 1951. Initial signs of the disease usually develop in adolescents or adults. Muscle phosphorylase deficiency adversely affecting the glycolytic pathway in skeletal musculature causes GSD type 5. Like other forms of GSD, McArdle disease is heterogeneous. Next is a glycogen storage disease type 6. Glycogen storage disease type 6, also known as Harris disease, belongs to the group of hepatic glycogenoses and represents a heterogeneous disease. Hepatic phosphorylase deficiency or deficiency of other enzymes that form a cascade necessary for liver phosphorylase activation causes the disease. In 1959, Harris described the first patients with proven phosphorylase deficiency. Next is the glycogen storage disease type 7. Glycogen storage disease type 7, also known as Torrey disease, arises as a result of phosphofructokinase deficiency. The enzyme is located in skeletal muscles and erythrocytes. Torrey reported the first patients in 1965. The clinical and laboratory features are similar to those of GSD type 5. Now, coming to the next part of our today's lecture, that is genetic deficiency of glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase. Glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficiency is an inherited sex-linked metabolic disorder characterized by an enzyme defect that leads to the breakdown of red blood cells upon exposure to stresses associated with some bacterial infections or certain drugs. A deficiency of this enzyme may result in the premature destruction of red blood cells, that is an acute hemolytic anemia or a chronic spherocytic type. Most people with glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficiency don't have any symptoms, while others develop symptoms of anemia only after RBCs have been destroyed, a condition called hemolysis. In these cases, the symptoms disappear once the cause or trigger is removed. In rare cases, glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficiency leads to chronic anemia. With the right precautions, a child with glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficiency can lead a healthy and active life. Glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase is one of the many enzymes that help the body process carbohydrates and turn them into energy. Glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase also protects red blood cells from potentially harmful byproducts that can accumulate when a person takes certain medications or when the body is fighting an infection. In people with glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficiency, either the RBCs do not make enough glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase or what is produced cannot properly function. Without enough glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase to protect them, RBCs can be damaged or destroyed. Hemolytic anemia occurs when the bone marrow, that is the soft spongy part of the bone that produces new blood cells, cannot compensate for this destruction by increasing its production of RBCs. Glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficiency is a genetic condition, that is, it is passed along from one or both parents to their child. The defective gene that causes this deficiency is on the X chromosome, which is one of the two sex chromosomes. Men have only one X chromosome, while women have two X chromosomes. In males, one altered copy of the gene is enough to cause glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficiency. In females, however, a mutation would have to occur in both copies of the gene. Since it is unlikely for females to have two altered copies of the gene, males are affected by glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficiency much more frequently than females. Symptoms of glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficiency can include rapid heart rate, shortness of breath, urine that is dark or yellow-orange, fever, fatigue, dizziness, jaundice or yellowing of the skin and whitish of the eyes. Next part of our today's lecture is galactosemia. Galactosemia is a disorder that affects how the body processes a simple sugar called galactose. A small amount of galactose is present in many foods. It is primarily part of a larger sugar called lactose, which is found in all dairy products and many baby formulas. The signs and symptoms of galactosemia result from an inability to use galactose to produce energy. Researchers have identified several types of galactosemia. These conditions are each caused by mutations in a particular gene and affect different enzymes involved in breaking down galactose. Classic galactosemia, also known as type 1, is the most common and most severe form of the condition. If infants with classic galactosemia are not treated promptly with a low galactose diet, life-threatening complications appear within a few days after birth. Affected infants typically develop feeding difficulties, a lack of energy, that is lethargy, a failure to gain weight and grow as expected, that is failure to thrive, yellowing of the skin and whitish of the eyes, that is jaundice, liver damage and abnormal bleeding. Other serious complications of this condition can include overwhelming bacterial infections, that is sepsis and shock. Affected children are also at increased risk of delayed development, clouding of the lens of the eyes, speech difficulties and intellectual disability. Females with classic galactosemia may develop reproductive problems caused by an early loss of function of the ovaries, that is premature ovarian insufficiency. Galactosemia type 2, also called galactokinase deficiency, and type 3, also called galactose epimerase deficiency, cause different patterns of signs and symptoms. Galactosemia type 2 causes fewer medical problems than the classic type. Affected infants develop cataracts but otherwise experience few long-term complications. The signs and symptoms of galactosemia type 3 vary from mild to severe and can include cataracts, delayed growth and development, intellectual disability, liver disease and kidney problems. Next is pentosuria. Pentosuria is a condition where the sugar xylitol, a pentose, is present in the urine in unusually high concentrations. It was characterized as an inborn error of carbohydrate metabolism in 1908. It is associated with the deficiency of L-xylulose reductase necessary for xylitol metabolism. L-xylulose is a reducing sugar, so it may give false diagnosis of diabetes as it is found in high concentrations in urine. However, people with pentosuria do not have non-standard metabolism of glucose like diabetes. Patients of pentosuria have a low concentration of the sugar D-xyloketose. Research has shown that pentosuria appears in three forms. The most widely studied is essential pentosuria, where a couple of grams of L-xylosol are released into a person's system daily. Xylulose contained in red blood cells is composed of both a major and minor isozyme. For those diagnosed with essential pentosuria, the major isozyme appears to be the same as the minor one. Elementary pentosuria can be acquired through fruits high in pentose. Finally, drug-induced pentosuria can be developed by those exposed to morphine, fevers, allergies, and some hormones. Essential pentosuria is caused by mutations in the DCXR gene. This gene provides instructions for making a protein called dicarbonyl L-xylulose reductase, which plays multiple roles in the body. One of its functions is to perform a chemical reaction that converts a sugar called L-xylulose to a molecule called xylitol. This reaction is one step in a process by which the body can use sugars for energy. DCXR gene mutations lead to the production of altered DCXR proteins that are quickly broken down. Without this protein, L-xylulose is not converted to xylitol and the excess sugar is released in the urine. Now, coming to the last part of our today's lecture, that is diabetes mellitus. Diabetes mellitus, commonly referred to as diabetes, is a group of metabolic diseases in which there are high blood sugar levels over a prolonged period. Symptoms of high blood sugar include frequent urination, increased thirst, and increased hunger. If left untreated, diabetes can cause many complications. Acute complications include diabetic ketoacidosis and non-ketotic hyperosmolar coma. Serious long-term complications include cardiovascular disease, stroke, chronic kidney failure, foot ulcers, and damage to the eyes. Diabetes is due to either the pancreas not producing enough insulin or the cells of the body not responding properly to the insulin produced. There are three main types of diabetes mellitus. Type 1 diabetes mellitus results from the pancreas failure to produce enough insulin. This form was previously referred to as insulin dependent diabetes mellitus or juvenile diabetes. The cause is unknown. Type 2 diabetes mellitus begins with insulin resistance, a condition in which cells fail to respond to insulin properly. As the disease progresses, a lack of insulin may also develop. This form was previously referred to as non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus or adult onset diabetes. The primary cause is excessive body weight and not enough exercise. Next is gestational diabetes. Gestational diabetes is the third main form and occurs when pregnant women without a previous history of diabetes develop high blood sugar levels. Prevention and treatment involve a healthy diet, physical exercise, maintaining a normal body weight, and avoiding use of tobacco. Control of blood pressure and maintaining proper foot care are important for people with the disease. Type 1 diabetes mellitus must be managed with insulin injections. Type 2 diabetes mellitus may be treated with medications with or without insulin. Insulin and some oral medications can cause low blood sugar. Weight loss surgery in those with obesity is sometimes an effective measure in those with type 2 diabetes mellitus. Gestational diabetes usually resolves after the birth of the baby. The classic symptoms of untreated diabetes are weight loss, polyuria, that is increased urination, polydipsia, that is increased thirst, and polyphagia, that is increased hunger. Symptoms may develop rapidly in type 1 diabetes mellitus, while they usually develop much more slowly and may be subtle or absent in type 2 diabetes mellitus. Several other signs and symptoms can mark the onset of diabetes, although they are not specific to the disease. In addition to the known ones, they include blurry vision, headache, fatigue, slow healing of cuts, and itchy skin. Prolonged high blood glucose can cause glucose absorption in the lens of the eye, which leads to changes in its shape, resulting in vision changes. A number of skin rashes that can occur in diabetes are collectively known as diabetic dermatodromes. That's all about today's lecture. Hope you have understood it very well. Thank you very much.